What's up YouTube? So today we're going to talk about whether you should get a 350Z HR or a 370Z. I'm going to keep it as basic as I can, but if I get anything completely wrong, I apologize. So let's start with some of the differences between a 350Z HR versus a 370Z VHR. So to start off, every 07 to 08 350Z comes with the VQ35 HR engine. VQ is the engine name, 35 is the liters, so it's a 3.5 liter. HR stands for high rev, and it's exactly what that means. This updated engine redlines at 7,500 RPM with a power output of 306 horsepower and 268 pound-feet of torque. In 2009, Nissan came out with the 370Z, giving it a VQ37 VHR, so it's a 3.7 liter engine, and the V means VVEL, being variable valve event and lift, and the HR means the same thing, high rev. The VHR makes around 332 horsepower, 270 pound-feet of torque. So comparing the numbers, it's basically just an extra 30 horsepower over the 350Z HR. So it's not the biggest difference, but it's definitely there. The HR shares about 65% of its parts as the HR. So again, it's not the biggest difference compared to seeing the 80% difference in the DE versus HR. But the main obvious differences are the displacement and the VVEL. There are a lot of other small differences and details we can go into, but this covers the most important updates. Just think HR and VHR are actually more closely related than the DE. So engine wise and power wise, it's hard to say which one you should get. And on the topic of the engine, they're both pretty solid, reliable engines that, if taken care of and maintained, can last you a long time. In 2024, if you do want a newer engine with lower miles, you probably have a lot more luck finding a VHR. So before we get into modifying the engine, let's just jump into the actual car and talk about the differences there. So obviously the 350Z is the older car, so the interior is gonna feel a little bit outdated with all the old plastic and maybe some things tearing up or ripping up, like this thing on my seat. At the end of the day, it still has everything you need, and in my opinion, I love the way it's set up and how the tachometers look and how everything is just driver focused. For a 2000s Japanese two-seater sports car, I feel like this interior actually came out really good and I really enjoy it. Moving into a 370Z actually isn't the biggest difference. Everything actually looks pretty much the same, set up exactly the same, but it's just newer. So you have all the same tachometers and all the same buttons and layouts and everything. It just feels a lot more updated. Obviously the 370Z came out in 2009, but it actually went all the way up until 2020 or 2021, I believe. So if you really wanted an updated interior, you can get a 2021 370Z and have it feel as updated as it could be. When it comes to driving the cars, I could say that the 350Z definitely feels more raw and handles great, while the 370Z feels a bit soft. If you want to be technical, the 370Z is for sure going to perform better because it's literally a better 350Z. But the feeling and actual driving response you get from both are actually a bit different. Like I said, the 350Z is more raw and you feel like you're in a race car, spaceship type of thing. But in a 370Z, you feel a little bit disconnected. So this is saying that the 350Z is better, or I think it's better. I'm just saying what's true and what I've heard other people say. Some people might like that more. Other people might prefer the other. I don't know. 370Z is a better performer, but very slightly, so it's a matter of preference and which style of car / driving you prefer. Staying on the interior, the 370Z actually does have a little bit more space all around, especially in the hatch. Without that big strut bar like in my 350Z, I would think it's a lot more comfortable just being more updated. Clutch and shifter are pretty much the same and feel the same. The 370Z might feel a little bit better just being newer, and you also have the option of getting that rev match, which revs the engine for you while you're shifting. So moving to the exterior is probably where the most obvious differences are. So with all the new styling, the 370Z has a lot more sharper edges and looks a bit more aggressive. Headlight and taillight design gives it a mean look and more updated look as well. Looks to be just a bit bigger all around, but keeps the same Z formula. I love the design of both 350Z and 370Z. The 350Z just has this timeless design that I think is just beautiful and will never get old, and the 370Z just has this updated look of it. I'm in love with both of them, so I can't say which one looks better, but just because I have my 350Z, I'm team 350Z. I think I would want the body and feel of a 350Z with the 370Z interior. So yeah, it comes down to preference when it comes to looks. But the last thing that you guys should really consider is pricing and availability. So obviously the 350Z HR is older and it's only from 07 to 08. So it's definitely going to be harder to find, especially a clean one. You could expect to pay around 10 to 15K for one these days. And if you do end up with a 350Z, parts are starting to get harder to find just because they are limited due to the limited production of the 350Z HRs. So replacing parts could be a lot more harder than a 370Z. But yeah, a 370Z on the other hand was made from 09 to 2021. So you could find them anywhere, but pricing is gonna vary. In my area, a clean 370Z could cost anywhere from 15K all the way up to 30K. So obviously depending on the year and condition, but at least you have more options when it comes to a 370Z and parts are still easily available. So for someone like me, I paid the highest amount for a 350Z, which could have been the lowest amount for a 370Z. And a lot of people have asked me why I chose a 350Z over a 370Z. And I actually made a whole video about that, so you could watch it there. You might ask yourself, which one would you pick if you were in my position? If you had both cars in front of you in similar condition and miles, honestly be a really hard choice. It really comes down to preference and which one matches your goals / personality more. Speaking of goals, let's talk about the aftermarket really quick, just because both of these cars have a huge selection of aftermarket parts for any type of build you could think of. You could literally pick any Z and go any route you want. There's a lot of support in the Z community, so you can't go wrong with building either a 350Z HR or a 370Z. From looks to performance, they could both literally do it all. Yes, some aftermarket parts might be a little bit harder to find on an HR than a 370Z, but at the end of the day, both cars are capable to build however you want. So if pricing and availability wasn't a factor, it would really just come down to preference. But since it is a factor, you really have to think about which one you want more. If you want a 350Z HR, you'd really have to look for one and hope to find a good one. If you want a 370Z, you have a lot more chance of finding one, and plus there's a lot more options when it comes to the models, years, and features that the car has. Whichever one you go with, we're all part of the Z fam. I love all respectable Z builds. You can't go wrong with either one, and you'll enjoy it as much as I am. But yeah, as always, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate everyone who's left any type of feedback on my channel, whether it was good, bad, a like or a comment, or even subscribed. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the next one.